One of the things I like about mythology is how much it finds its way into our lives, from day-to-day activities to the content we experience like books, shows, movies, and yes, especially video games. That's right folks, we're starting off a new series on this channel, all about video games and pop culture. Which isn't a new concept for this channel, in fact it was actually the original main premise of the channel, but at least it's official now. Again. So today we're diving into a game that I've been wanting to do for ages, and since it's the 35th anniversary of this game's franchise, I thought what better time to talk about the mythological origins of The Legend of Zelda Majora's Mask. Now there's been other videos on YouTube about the subject, and you should definitely check them out. But I feel like I have a whole array of myths and tales to contribute to the conversation. Majora's Mask is a game that looks nothing like many of the other games in the Zelda series. While yes, most of these games are different with all sorts of settings from typical fantasy to high-seas adventures, and even to dystopian sci-fi-esque Breath of the Wild, but if you ask any Zelda fan, they'll tell you that there's nothing like Majora's Mask. It stands out so much thanks to the ever-looming presence of death and despair. Fun! Oh yeah, by the way, spoiler alert for like most of the game's story and some side quests. You've been warned. In this game, our favorite silent elf boy protagonist, Link, is thrown into the world of Termina, which, thanks to Skull Kid, an imp influenced by the dark powers of Majora's Mask, has only 3 days before his horrifyingly faced moon crashes down and destroys the world, twice as effective as a Thanos snap. With some of the Terminians becoming more and more anxious as time passes, while others absolutely refuse to believe the danger right in front of their faces. Hey, kinda like real life. Hey Nintendo, good job on the realism. There are actually only 4 main dungeons in this game, not counting the final one at the end, the first one being that of Woodfall Temple in the south. Now this section of the game is probably one of the biggest examples of both African and Mesoamerican culture. I mean, for starters, just look at the region. You can definitely see the African and Mesoamerican influence, especially with the fact that Woodfall Temple looks very similar to an ancient Mayan temple with all sorts of Mayan designs on the inside, along with said influences in the music and the boss itself. However, again, this has been talked about before in a variety of videos. My favorite being that of a YouTuber that goes by the name of Save Data, who goes into a lot more detail about the temple. So for the sake of not sounding like a broken record, we'll move on to the other Mesoamerican references throughout the game. Again, Woodfall Temple is one of the 4 main dungeons. Each time you beat the boss, you free one of the 4 giants of Termina, who play an important role at the end of the game. That being during the final hours before the moon crashes into the world. Normally, when this happens, all you can do is watch as the characters you've grown to know and love slowly realize that they're all going to die, and all you can do is watch and restart the 3 days Groundhog Day style, as it's one of the main mechanics of the game. These giants are as mysterious as they are tall, but there is a side quest where you can go to an old woman and ask her to tell you one of 2 stories, one about the festival that is supposed to happen at the end of the 3 days, which such so happens to be accompanied by a picture that looks pretty Mexican if you ask me, and the other story is about the 4 giants. According to her, the 4 giants are like gods to the people of Termina, and eventually went their separate ways to sleep somewhere far off into the north, south, east, and west. As they did, this symbolically separated Termina into 4 different worlds, leaving Clockdown behind in the center, kind of acting like a 5th. Now this is really interesting for multiple reasons. First of all, because this reminds me of the 4 Mayan worlds and 5 Aztec worlds in both of their respective creation myths, as well as the fact that the cardinal directions are important to a lot of cultures, especially that of, again, both the Aztec and the Mayan. For starters, according to the Aztecs, the world is made of the corpse of the crocodile beast Zapocli, whose limbs were torn to represent the north, south, east, and west, by the 4 Tezcalipocas, a group of creator gods who represent their respective directions. 4 gods that each represent a cardinal direction? Sounds kinda familiar to me now, doesn't it? That's not the only connection the 4 giants have with real-world mythology either. While the Aztecs had the Quinametzin Giants, the Mayans had the Bacabs, who together held up the sky, and are also associated with the 4 directions, along with the 5 Saba trees, that connect the earth with the underworld and the heavens. Holding up the sky itself is such an important part to Majora's Mask, as after you free the 4 giants, and when the time comes, you call them during the final hours, to come together to stop the moon from crashing to the world. One of the biggest connections this game has to Mesoamerican mythology, in my opinion, is the similarities the game's plot has to the birth of probably one of the most important Aztec gods, or at least the Mexica tribe anyways, the tribe that pretty much ran the entire Aztec empire. If you'd seen my Aztec origin myth video, you'd probably recognize the war god Huitzilopochtli and his mother Qualique, whose pregnancy with Huitzilopochtli was pretty controversial to her other children. You see, while Qualique was weeping, she found a ball of hummingbird feathers and tucked it away on her person somewhere. which somehow got her pregnant? What, don't look at me. Mythology is not known for making a whole lot of sense, you know? But thinking about it now, that's probably how Huitzilopochtli got his name. Once Qualique's daughter, Coyolxauhqui, found out about her pregnancy, she became furious. Most likely because of the taboo the Aztecs had around, adult activities. For the sake of keeping this at least somewhat family friendly, let's just say taxes? Sure, let's go with that. And thus, Coyolxauhqui rounded up her 400 brothers to kill Qualique. Wait, 400 brothers? Sheesh. That's enough to even give Zeus a run for his money. Anyways, they managed to decapitate Qualique, but that was nowhere near enough to kill her. Instead, she sprouted 2 snakeheads out of resistance. And not only that, but Huitzilopochtli, with the sheer drive of vengeance, popped out of his mother and immediately pulled what you would call a pro gamer move, and completely annihilated his opponents, decapitating his sister and tossing it into the sky. Yep, family friendly, alright. Depending on a version, either Qualique's or Coyolxauhqui's head becomes the moon, with her 400 brothers becoming the stars. Man, Thanksgivings are going to be awkward. For multiple reasons. One of which being the threat that one day Coyolxauhqui and her brothers may actually return and consume the world. Thankfully, at the end of Majora's Mask, that event doesn't come to fruition. At least permanently anyways. That's a lot of timelines where, oh, that's a lot of death. Oh boy. Looking back at Majora's Mask, it's almost impossible not to see the parallels. I mean, just look at the moon. It's literally a giant face that wants to consume the world. This plus the temple and boss designs, music, giants, and the importance of the 4 directions just screams Mesoamerica. Plus the fact that the clock in the clock tower and clock town looks very similar to the Aztec sunstone, which is often confused with the Mayan calendar. I'm starting to see a clock/time theme here. Oh gosh, there's so much stuff here that I just had to stop before this video gets way too long. Heck, I didn't even get into how all the races and a lot of the animals in the game are pretty similar to the ones that are found in Mesoamerican creation myths. From the Deku scribes, Zora, and Gorons, to even this little monkey over here. While maybe not all of these references were intentional, there's no denying that at least some of the people working on the Zelda team were looking to Mesoamerican inspirations for this amazing game. And if you haven't yet, definitely check it out for yourself, and try looking for all the mythological and cultural parallels, and not just this game, but in so many others. Just think about it. Not believing in indisputable facts, huh? Can't imagine a world like that.